Hello and welcome to today's live broadcast. It has been a minute since we have broadcasted live. We took a couple days off to enjoy our family that was in town and our Thanksgiving break, and we are ready to get back and share some good information with you. Today we are going to be talking about Alzheimer's disease. I'm going to share with you some information about Alzheimer's and what it is, and some signs and signals to look for not only in yourself, but I thought this would be a good month to talk about Alzheimer's because this is also the time when we are around people that maybe we're not around on an everyday basis. And knowing what to look for in regards to some of these signs and signals with Alzheimer's might be a good thing to be aware of, as I said, when we are around people that we maybe aren't around on an everyday basis. So welcome if you're joining us live or on the rebroadcast. I always ask that you take a second to hit that subscribe button so that you will be notified when we go live or upload new content. And then there's also a little bell icon on YouTube. If you hit that, then YouTube will notify you when we do go live. On Facebook, the same request. Make sure you hit that like button on the page, and there's also a notifications default. Make sure that you have set us up in a way that you wish to be notified from us when we do go live or upload new content as well. As always, this is an open forum, so I'm going to share with you some information about Alzheimer's, and then we are going to open up the discussion for questions and maybe some comments that you guys might have as well. We're going to keep today's discussion a little short because what I'm going to do is focus on this topic for the entire month of December, and share with you little tidbits of information as we go through the month. But first, I thought we would define what Alzheimer's is, and then also what some of the different signs and signals might be, and how you should start paying attention to some of these things. So we've talked about before the statistics with Alzheimer's, and of course I have the statistics for America, and I know this number is bigger when we go worldwide, but about 5 million people are currently living with Alzheimer's here in the United States. 2/3 of that number is composed of American women. So 2/3 of 5 million people who are currently living with Alzheimer's are women. So this is our disease, ladies. We need to start thinking about some of these early signs and signals. And then like I said, we progress through the month, I'm going to share some precautionary things that we can do and some ways that we can actually reverse some of the cognitive decline that maybe you might already be feeling, or some things that you can do to help those that are around you that you love. So what is Alzheimer's? So Alzheimer's is a disease that is a progressive brain disorder. And you know, when I was suffering from my own Alzheimer's signs and signals just a few short years ago, and I have to admit I still suffer from some slight Alzheimer's like signs and signals as well. So I'm always very aware of my lifestyle changes, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But we want to think about it as a brain disorder, and we need to start thinking about this very seriously. Here in this community, we do everything based off of the results that we're going to get health-wise. If you lose weight, if you lose body fat, if you build muscle, those are all just bonus results that we're going to get. But I always want to lead with the choices that we're making and the lifestyles that we're creating are for the big picture overall health improvements that we can make and advancements that we can make for our future. So I am taking Alzheimer's very seriously, and I do consider it a brain disorder. I used to think Alzheimer's was my grandmother's disease. I never ever thought that me sitting here as a young 50-year-old woman would be calling myself an Alzheimer's candidate or victim, maybe I guess would be a word to use, that I've already started suffering some of these signs and signals. So it is our current day midlife aging woman disease, and we need to start really looking for some of these signs and signals. So it is a progressive brain disorder that impacts memory, thinking, and language. So if you have found yourself in a situation where you're at a loss for words, or you don't have the same memory recall that you feel like you once had, now is the time to start taking those things very seriously, and don't casually brush them off as, oh, it's just I'm having a bad day, or it's an aging thing, or it's a blonde thing, or however you decide to jokingly, just kind of blow it off. make sure you stop doing that immediately and think about these changes that you're seeing in feeling, and could it be something more serious than you just having an off day. So it affects memory, thinking, and language. So Alzheimer's causes dementia. So dementia is the term that we use to describe the symptoms of Alzheimer's. Dementia is not a disease, but it is a classification of symptoms that are related to brain disorders. So Alzheimer's causes dementia. So what are the different levels of Alzheimer's? There's 3 primary levels of Alzheimer's, and they grow in progression as the disease worsens. So the first level of dementia is what is called early Alzheimer's. I mean, the early stages, or what is called mild Alzheimer's. Mild Alzheimer's is described as being forgetful. So if you're feeling like like I said, you're just having an off day, or maybe people are referring you as, oh yeah, she's just forgetful. Those are the early signs and the mild stages of Alzheimer's. Forgetting things like simple words or objects or names of people and places, like when you're going around town and you can't recall something that should be very, very familiar to you. Those are mild signs of Alzheimer's. Repeating questions or scenarios, and then the inability to plan and organize like you used to. So for me, for instance, the mild stages of Alzheimer's that I feel on an everyday basis is the fact that I have to calendar everything in my life. I would say my life is a lot less busy now than it was when I was in my 30s and even my early 40s. And when I was a young woman, 20s, I had several jobs. I taught aerobics in several different fitness clubs, and I never once had to write down my schedule, and I never missed a shift. I never missed a place that I needed to be. I could keep everything in my head, and my life ran very smoothly. I cannot function today without a calendar. Like, everything's on my phone, everything's in my passion planner. I don't make a decision without looking there first, because I can't remember what's on my schedule. That to me is something I take very seriously. I don't take that as, oh, life is just busy, or I have a lot of things on my plate. I take that as a warning sign that my brain is not working the way it used to, and I'm already taking preventative measures to make sure that it's not getting any worse. So those are the mild or early signs of Alzheimer's. Very simple everyday things that we tend to just jokingly kind of like throw out as it's just what happens to us as we age. I'm telling you, it's not supposed to be that way. The second stage is what is considered moderate Alzheimer's. Moderate Alzheimer's are the mild signs and signals that grow in progression and seem to get worse. So words, objects, names, those kind of things are progressively getting harder for you to recall. Inability to recognize people. So you see someone and you can't remember where you know them from. You can't remember their name. You can't remember how you're associated with them, but they seem familiar to you. Continuously repeating questions or stories. Again, this reminded me of my grandmother. Like, oh, here we go again. Grandma's going to tell us that same story. Like, she's told us 5 times last time we saw her. That is a sign of moderate Alzheimer's setting in. Inability to manage daily tasks, organize your bills, plan events. Again, this is the time of the year when we have to be very aware of all the things that we have going on in organizing social events or organizing a Christmas at your house. Are you finding that increasingly more difficult to do year after year? And if you're starting to notice that it's becoming difficult for you to plan an event that's going to be happening at your house, or maybe the guest list, or some of the things you have to organize around a social setting, that might be something that you want to take seriously and get yourself checked out. And then lack of concern about personal appearance. So your desire to put yourself together has changed. So maybe you were once a well put together woman. You never left the house unless you were dressed a certain way, or your hair or makeup was a certain way, and you suddenly just stopped caring about those things. That can also be one of the signs of moderate Alzheimer's. And then needing assistance to prepare for your day. So, for instance, if You live in a seasonal place like we live here in Texas. And I see that it's sunny outside and I go outside with my flip-flops on and my summer shorts and a tank top because my association with the sun is that it should be hot outside, not remembering that we are in December and it's actually really cold outside. So seasonal changes and not being able to easily adjust to those and accommodate the lifestyle choices that you're making based on those types of changes. So that's level 2, which is moderate. Then the third level of Alzheimer's is severe. This is when we have almost no memory at all anymore, so total memory loss. We have mistaken identity of ourselves and maybe our loved ones. So we've heard stories, or maybe you have a loved one who has gone through this level of Alzheimer's and you go to visit them and they remember you as a child, or they think that you're another family member or another friend, and they look dead at you and they are telling stories or calling you by someone else's name because they recognize you as someone other than yourself. That's a severe sign. Signs of just being delusional, and not saying that word in any sort of negative connotation, but just that you're mentally not there and you seem very confused. That's another sign of severe Alzheimer's. Increased need for comfort or a physical touch or some sort of tactile stimulation is another sign of severe Alzheimer's. And then the inability to perform daily tasks or recognize daily needs. So feeding yourself, making sure that you stay hydrated. Again, at that severe level of Alzheimer's is usually when there's probably already been some intervention. You probably have someone who's caretaking for you, or you're caretaking for someone else. And the mild moving into moderate to severe is usually when, like I said, there's some sort of intervention. A family member has to come in and take over and do the caretaking, or you probably might also be moved into some sort of care facility type of place. So Alzheimer's is nothing that we should take lightly. We should consider Alzheimer's a disease like we would any other disease, whether it be cancer or the autoimmune disorders that we're very aware of and we're trying to get under control, diabetes, heart conditions, any of those type of diseases rank right up there with Alzheimer's. There's nothing worse than the feeling that you are losing your mind. I'm telling you that from a firsthand experience and scenario of myself just 4 short years ago, when I could not remember my own kids' names, when I could not remember where I parked my car when I went grocery shopping. To this day, because now it's just a habit and a little bit of my own fear, I always park my car next to a cart return. It's just what I do, because when my mind was sick and I wasn't able to remember a simple thing like where I parked my car when I went into a store, the thing that I did to help myself find my car was always park it next to a cart return. Worst case scenario, I just hit up every cart return and eventually I would find my car. Severe Alzheimer's for me would be not remembering that I parked my car next to that cart return. So we have to be very, very aware of our own habits that we're putting in place to safeguard ourselves from these memory loss type of situations, or just spatial awareness and the loss that we have about that. Standing in the middle of the room in your own home and wondering why you're standing there, forgetting why it is you walked into that room, or putting something down in your home and forgetting where you put it and frantically running around wondering where it is. Those are not signs of aging. Those are signs of brain cognitive decline. It is the sign of your brain being damaged, and that we should be very aware of this and take this seriously. We jokingly say that it's a sign of aging, or it's a sign of hormonal change. Aging is not supposed to be that way. We talk about that a lot here as well. Aging should be something that we do gracefully, and we should keep all of our abilities intact. If you notice that those abilities that you have had on an everyday basis start to decline, you need to do some things about that. I highly recommend doing some Google searches about Alzheimer's, about what some preventative measures are. We're going to talk about a lot of those things here this month as well. But what I wanted to first lead with in opening up this conversation is, what are the things that you should be looking for? If any of the things that I discussed today, whether it be mild, moderate, or severe, sound familiar to you because you see or feel those things in yourself, or maybe you're seeing or feeling those types of changes in some people that you are spending time with, take action. The first thing to do is make sure that when you go to your physician for a physical, or maybe you need to schedule an appointment with your physician, ask your physician to do a cognitive test with you. Ask your physician to start a baseline brain and cognitive test so that year after year you can go in and you can see how your brain is doing. The beautiful thing about some research that is going on today, because of the staggering statistics that are just heartbreaking, there's so much new research being done, and there's so many new studies being done testing some lifestyle changes and how those lifestyle changes are positively impacting some of these people who are going in and being case study people, and seeing how we can actually reverse some of this cognitive decline. We know we can do it because we've done a lot of it here with just what we're doing with intermittent fasting and some lifestyle changes we're doing with our nutrition. We are going to start working on a little bit more of that here in this community as well throughout this month. I'm going to give you some very specific things that you can do on Wednesday to help you if you feel like your brain is in a fog. Brain fog is not a normal way to live your life. So if you're feeling foggy in your brain, it is something that is going on in your lifestyle. Alzheimer's is no longer considered a genetic type of disease, as most diseases are now changing out of that sort of definition. Alzheimer's is now considered a lifestyle disease. We know it's a lifestyle disease because if you change your lifestyle, you can change the brain health that you have going on, and you can change some of those negative things that you are feeling. So think about that list that I just said. We are going to put this on my For Today's Aging Woman blog. All of the information I shared with you today, we'll also post this video up there as well. So if you need to go back and review some of the signs and signals of Alzheimer's and maybe the 3 levels and how those progress on each other, you can find that on my blog. That should be up tomorrow, so you can go back and refer to that. I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for questions and answers and any discussion that you want to take further on today's topic. So make sure you get your comment in there. I'm going to go ahead and start with Facebook first, and then I will go into YouTube as well. You guys know
You're 53, not 50.
What did I say?
You
No,
said
I said
50.
I did.
Yeah.
See? Cognitive decline. In my 50s, not 50. I wish I was 50 still. Okay, so let's see. Amy's here. I was originally in the April 2017 class, and I'm happiest doing IF every day. I'm watching from Oregon. Yes, Amy, you are. You're killing it. Diane from Pennsylvania. Hello. Karen, good evening from the UK. June 19 IF grad, plus other courses. My mother had vascular dementia, and the threat of that affecting me was the main motivator for me taking control and building a new healthy future for myself. Yeah, for sure. And the thing about this lifestyle is, I always say you can ebb and flow your way in it for sure. And, just like I just said, 50 and I'm 53, we had a very different weekend in our house. It was a great weekend, but different than what we usually live, and different from the way I really like to keep my sound mind and body. And so I am feeling a little foggy today. I'm feeling a little mentally slow today. And I know that's just because of some of the things we did this weekend. No regrets. I enjoyed every single minute of the time we spent with our family, but I have to get myself out of this brain delay now and this little fogginess that I have going on in my brain. And the best way I know how to do that is from what I teach here. Intermittent fasting. I'm going to fast long all week. I'm going to get myself back into my brain healthy, nutrient dense feasting all this week. And I'm sure in a couple days the brain fog will lift, and I'll go back to my mental clarity and all the energy that I usually have. And so we know from testing this and going in and out of fasting clean and going off and doing things that we did in the past, and how that affects our brain and how that makes us feel slow-minded. But we know that we can also clean things up and very quickly get that back as well. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that if you're not liking the way you're feeling and it's still in that mild or newly moderate type of feeling, there is hope on the horizon that we can do some things to correct what it is we have going on in our brain and make ourselves feel strong mentally. I say that a lot here as well. Like, I have days where I feel mentally strong and healthy, and then I have some of those days where I just feel very mentally confused. And so I am taking this very seriously at this point in my life at 53 years old, because I don't want to lose any more of my mental capacity. I hope to be doing my business here with all of you and sharing content here. And I communicate in most of what it is that I do in my work, and I have to keep that skill set up. I cannot lose that part of my brain. I also do not want to miss out on my grandkids and the future of my kids as well. And I know that I have to keep my brain sharp for that as well. I do not want to lose any more of what I have going on in my brain that I have already lost, and I'm hoping to regain it back. So I promise you, I will keep you guys posted on everything that I'm doing, and anything that I learn, I will share that you guys can use as a tool as well. Moss Borino, I think it is. Hello, neighbor. She must be a Texas gal. Janine, great time to see you today. Interested in this topic. I have several friends who have gone through with family members praying. I never experienced it with my family or myself. Yeah, Janine, I saw, I think it was a video about some of the science that they're doing, current science and studies they're doing with Alzheimer's, about a 61-year-old gentleman who was a lawyer. And him and his wife, you know, they saved their whole life for retirement. They finally got to retirement, and he just went down fast with Alzheimer's. And now his wife is his primary caregiver, and 60s, you guys, 60s. And they have lost all their retirement to medical expenses and in caregiving for him. Her full-time job after raising 3 kids is to care for her husband, who has severe Alzheimer's. And so it is something that we have to take seriously as a problem we're facing today. It's not a future problem, it's today's problem. And we really need to start working on keeping our brain healthy and reversing any of the things that have already set in, and really making those decisions based on how you want your future to be. One of the big reasons why I recently just completely stopped consuming alcohol was for my brain. And I could not see one reason where alcohol was going to be beneficial to me in my life with all the things that I'm working toward for my future. And so that was an easy one for me. I don't want that to affect my brain in any way moving forward. And so I just gave it up. And so we really have to start thinking about some of the lifestyle things that we have going on in our everyday life, and why we're holding on to some things that really serve no positive purpose, and start thinking about the big picture long term for sure. So I pray that you don't have to experience that as well. Dallas from Australia, where it's Tuesday. Well, happy Tuesday, Dallas. Good to have you with us. Shalot, you're here. Awesome. Simone, November 2019. Looking forward to the December 2019 course. We are too. So for those of you who are interested in making some positive lifestyle changes to help offset some Alzheimer's or some other things that we're going through as we're aging, our next course is December 7th, and registration is still open. Susie, 2019 grad from June. I fell off the IF wagon this past week because I was fluish, but getting back on now. Thank you for this forum. Yeah, for sure. You're welcome, and get right back on.
Mas
Borneo. Took last week off and getting back to IF starting today. Good for you, girlfriend. You'll start to feel better soon. We fasted all weekend, right, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know I did. I fasted, maybe not 20 hours, but we fasted. We didn't start with breakfast. And we worked out almost every day. But I ate differently. So I consumed just more carbs than I normally do. Not bad carbs, but just more carbs than I usually do. So I feel like I'm out of that fat adapted state. And so my brain is running off that sugar, which is, I think, is kind of making me feel a little foggy brained. But like I said, you just deplete that and you get back to your normal self and you'll be fine. Johnny, is dementia the same? So I said Alzheimer's is the disease. Dementia is the description around the signs and symptoms that it is. So Alzheimer's leads to dementia, which is basically the symptoms or the description of what Alzheimer's is how I interpreted that. Susan from 2019, Monica, thanks for joining us. Darlene, hello from February 2019 grad. Margaret, I have brain fog every day, but I have always thought it was due to poor sleep. I wake up off and on all night. I'm 64. So poor sleep is not anything that is helping you for sure. But poor sleep is also not something that's supposed to happen. Usually when you're not sleeping soundly for a consecutive amount of hours, and again, hours that you need to sleep are going to have to be determined by you. Some people say you need 8. Some people say you can survive on less. You have to find that for you. Is usually a hormonal imbalance. And so you want to make sure that you're doing the things to get your hormones in balance. We suggest intermittent fasting. And then what you'll see is your sleep will improve. Also, a lot of times when you're not getting good consecutive hours of sleeping, it could be from the fact that you might have a magnesium deficiency. So I would check into that as well. Simone, I have noticed a cognitive decline. I can remember everything. Now at 53, my brain is declining. I'm doing IF, and are there any vitamins that I should focus on? We're going to talk about that this week for sure. But one of the fascinating things that I've been discovering in my research is hydration. You know, our brain is 80% fluid. And so when we're dehydrated, guess what? Our brain is dehydrated as well. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on Wednesday. But, you know, get that water in you. You cannot drink enough water, especially during the seasonal changes. I know here in Texas, it is so dry. If I were to go stand out in my backyard for 10 minutes, I would feel completely dehydrated. The air is just dry here. So I have to really be conscious of how much water I'm drinking, not just think I'm drinking enough water, but Michael and I are actually tracking our water because once we start feeling bad, it's usually because we're dehydrated. So if you think you're drinking enough water, drink more. You're probably not getting enough in your system for sure. Francis, super excited to start your new class on December and change my life. Oh, girlfriend, I love that attitude. And with that attitude, you definitely will change your life for sure. Can't wait to have you in class. And then Robin, can you comment on grief brain? I lost my son, and this is very complicated loss, unlike any other. After 4 years, my brain still hasn't recovered. Sure. I mean, I can't speak of it personally myself, but you know, any emotion that we are struck with and that type of severity and seriousness, you're going to be hormonally out of balance. So if you haven't already done so, I would definitely go seek out some sort of therapy that can kind of get you through that time. Grieving takes different tolls on people in different ways. Sometimes people can come back from grief sooner than others. So I would definitely look into getting some sort of a counseling for that, figuring out how you can work through that. I can't imagine what you're going through. I'm guessing it's horrific. I would imagine so. I have a son. I can imagine losing him. So I would definitely do some work on the emotional aspect of that, and then see if you can maybe see see and feel some signs of improvement from there for sure. And then Viviana, hello, girlfriend. So Alzheimer's, it's serious. It's our disease today, ladies. 2/3 of 5 million people are women suffering from Alzheimer's. It's not anything that we can joke off. It's not anything that we can take lightheartedly. If you are noticing subtle changes in the way your brain is working, if you're noticing changes in memory recall, name recall, you don't know where you parked your car, you can't remember where you lost your keys, you forget how old you are, all of those are very serious warning signs that something is changing in your brain. The best thing that we can do is catch it before it becomes severe. And there are some things that we can do to reverse it. We'll be talking about that this week. Always defer to the most basic common sense approaches to lifestyle. Moderate amounts of exercise, aerobic exercise, more specifically, we're going to talk about that. Making sure that you're properly hydrated, making sure your body has adequate amounts of electrolytes, common sense, nutrient dense nutrition. The less processed your food is, the better it's going to be for your brain. Consuming whole, unprocessed foods, making sure that you're getting a nice variety of color and texture and food groups within your day of feasting. And then we all know that fasting is also the best way to repair your brain and keep that brain fog at bay, and then just listen to the signs and signals that your body is sending you. I know for a fact I show signs here in some of the conversations that we have. I have a loss for words. I can't read certain names that I'm trying to read on a leaderboard. I forget simple things, and so I am going to be modeling for you guys here what it means to take care of your brain, how serious Alzheimer's needs to be for us in this aging community of women. And I will share, like I said, everything that I learned and everything that I'm experiencing in hopes that you will listen, and then also pay attention to the signs and signals your body is sending you, and know that if you catch it early enough and you're determined to keep it at bay or reverse some of those signs and signals, that you do have the power to take your health in your own hands. So thank you for joining me today. Like I said, we'll put this up on the For Today's Aging Woman blog, so you can go back and reference the information that we talked about today. And then on Wednesday, we're going to talk about some very specific things that we can do to slow down this cognitive decline and possibly even reverse some of it. Have a good rest of your day. If you haven't joined our December course yet, please make sure you do that. Registration will be open until Friday around noon, and then we will close it out. It's our last course for 2019. I would love to have you in with us. We do lots of great work to teach you how to take care of your body and reverse some of these signs of aging that we don't like so much. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.